Ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this very important dossier presented by none other than the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, along with the National Security Advisor, Moeed Yusuf, and with them it was also the Minister for Human Rights. Now, interestingly, a lot has been disclosed in that. A lot has been talked about. But having said that, now this is a very, very comprehensive dossier regarding the war crimes in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And I think this is our right to tell the world that this is what is happening in that part of the world. You talk about jails, you talk about curfews, you talk about certain laws that are implemented, whether it's the draconian laws such as POTA or otherwise, or the abrogation of the Article 370 or 35A. Now, what we have learned that they are targeting the youth in particular. A lot of people are missing. Many have been killed. That is what we call the extrajudicial killing, or even the killing in the custody during the interrogation. This has become a regular phenomenon. You talk about the use of pellet guns. They use it as if it's a deodorant spray or something. Honestly speaking, things are getting so bad out there that this is an absolute case of human misery. Now, we have a right, we are a party to Kashmir cause, we will keep on raising this. Let me quickly give you a brief introduction. We have prepared some slides, and these are about the Indian atrocities that have been committed since 1989. And I'll just give you data that 96,000 plus people have been killed, as I earlier mentioned, extrajudicial killings, 162,000 arrests and torture cases, 25,000 plus pellet gun injuries, and mostly these people have been blinded on purpose. 11,250 women have been raped. 23,000 women have been widowed. 108,000 children have been orphaned. 110,000 properties destroyed in cordon and search operation. Mostly they were torched. Now you talk about war crimes that the Indian occupation forces, which we call the IOF, 3,432 cases, 1,178 personnel involved, 1 major general, that's a 2-star, 4 inspector generals, 7 deputy inspector generals, 5 brigadiers, 31 colonels, 188 majors and captains. I mean, just imagine the number. So you can well imagine the kind of atrocities that have been committed by the Indian forces, and not even a single case have been registered or pursued. This is the dilemma. This is the most unfortunate part. Now, to talk about it, let me quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Dr. ASMA SHAKIR. KHAWAJA Sahiba needs no introduction. She is an author and expert on foreign affairs. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. And we also have with us Dr. WALEED RASOOL Saab, Kashmiri leader, needs no introduction, is a known face. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for your presence. And we'll also be talking to Lieutenant General retired AMJAD SHOAIB Saab, who is a defense analyst, in a little while. But let me start off from you, ma'am. I think whatever Pakistan has disclosed or shared in this dossier, 101% correct. We do not believe in the misinformation that has been spread by the Indians, but this is the reality. And this is not even 1% what we have shown, because we have a very limited time as far as the program is concerned. But ma'am, the right move in the right direction, and I think it needs to gain a lot of momentum, so that those people who are the movers and shakers, or who are the real establishment at the global level, those who are the decision makers, should hear about this. This is what is going on. Kashmir is also on earth, by the way. If people feel a lot of pain for something which happens in countries where they have their own interests, why not Kashmir, ma'am? Let's start off from there.
Yes, you rightly pointed out that this dossier is another step in the right direction. And for me as an academician, it was really, I was really happy to see the way that dossier is being composed and presented, because it is as the quality dossier meets any international standard of research. And above all, as the foreign minister pointed out, that they have used the resources, references from the international scholars and media. So this shows that how neutral and credible this research work is, which Pakistan is trying to present to the world, that if they, as it was said yesterday in the press conference as well, that if the civilized world really mean what they preach about human rights, democracy, civilization, and their support for the oppressed community across the globe, then this is the time, and this dossier provides the legitimate reasons for to the civilized world to speak up for Kashmiris. And as you mentioned, that the issue of war crimes, it is a grave issue. It is not an issue which the international community can shrug under the carpet, or it can ignore it for some time, because war crimes, you know, and then our fears that India aims at changing the demography of Kashmir by using those war crimes, atrocities, oppression, mass killings. What is war crime? War crime is mass genocides. War crime is
what happened in Bosnia.
Exactly. We know. So if this is not the time for, and Kashmir has already witnessed such phenomena. I'm sure you remember the least reported genocide of the world, which was Jammu genocide of 1947.
Absolutely,
and today, you know,
go.
Jammu is not a Muslim majority state anymore. So Kashmir has seen such brutal acts
And
as
they
a
have
tool.
added Jammu and Kashmir as one, and Ladakh as one.
Yes.
So basically this was their agenda, that, you know, the
Yes.
word Kashmir should be eliminated
Yes.
from the entire scenario.
Yes, and you know, it is really important to notice, and Pakistan should work on it, the way it is from day one. It is the policy of Indian occupying forces, which I called Indian colonial forces,
Correct.
to change or to dilute the legitimacy of Kashmir freedom movement. Right now, Kashmiris are struggling to materialize the promise which international community, India and Pakistan made to Kashmiris in 1948. They want them to fulfill their promise and provide them right of self-determination through free and fair plebiscite.
Absolutely.
What India is doing as a policy to dilute the legitimacy of this movement, and that is why, and that is how they have established the camps of ISIS, training camps. And if you remember, when the terrorist attacks in Sri Lanka, in different cities of Sri Lanka happened, the money was transferred to those terrorists from India. So this shows that how India is connected in financing terrorism.
Even remember that bombing that took place, that killed a lot of people in the church.
Yes, exactly.
Again, that individual was sponsored by the Indians.
So India, in international community, should investigate India for the acts of terror financing. It is not a small thing, and world remembers that in last 20 years, 200 kilogram of uranium radioactive material was found in the Indian black market by Indian police. It is not a small
Reported
thing.
by the Indians also.
Reported
in Mumbai
by
and
the
a couple
Indian
of other
police.
places also.
200 kg of radioactive.
Imagine.
Imagine. And what is this for? And this substantiate when Pakistan says, and this reports indicates that India is using chemical weapons against Kashmiris. So using of chemical weapons, using of the weapons which are illegitimate as per international humanitarian law, committing war crimes against innocent Kashmiris. I met few Kashmiri leaders, and they told me that Kashmir is the least reported conflict of the world. Even like 10% of the brutality, subjugation and oppression is not reaching to the outer world. And I would like to add that if India, because I've seen Twitter and other social media accounts, despite answering what Pakistan has tabled in this dossier, or Pakistan has presented to the civilized world in this dossier, despite answering those questions, what they are doing mudslinging, and this is the typical Modi media management policy, that that they don't answer the actual things which you have been questioned for, but just divert the attention and right, left,
Try to avoid it.
So if India thinks that this dossier doesn't have solid evidence in it and is not a legitimate dossier, India should, if I would be at their place, India should invite international organizations to come and investigate, like Pakistan did in case of Balakot. Immediately we took the ambassadors, diplomatic staff, we took the journalists from across the globe to Balakot to see themselves
what has happened, yeah.
that there is no such training camp existing on ground. And if India is training ISIS militants to dilute the legitimacy of Kashmir freedom struggle, and if Pakistan is wrong, I think it is right time to take diplomats and journalists from across the globe to those areas, and for the war crime thing, for the use of chemical weapons, it is horrible. It is horrible. We cannot even imagine the plight of Kashmiri people who have been subjugated and sieged in Indian occupied Kashmir, that they cannot even register their pains on any international forum because they don't have access. Why India is the country with the largest internet shutdowns in the world?
There you go. That tells the story, because you want to.
They want to create a blackout. They want to create a fog of disinformation between the civilized world and the poor innocent Kashmiris.
All right. Ma'am, the interesting part is that since Indians have mastered the art, actually, whether we like it or we don't, they have how to spread disinformation, and interestingly, they're getting caught at each and every level.
This is what they have learned from Nazis. Nazis also mastered the art of propaganda
campaign, propaganda ministry. This is what it was all about. Sir, if you allow me, we've also been joined in by General AMJAD SHOAIB Saab. General Saab, Assalamu Alaikum ji. General AMJAD Saab, Assalamu Alaikum.
Ji, Walaikum Assalam. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you clearly, sir. Thank you so much for taking out your time and talking to PTV World. Now, General Saab, straight question, sir. Your take on this particular dossier that was presented yesterday, a very comprehensive document. Your take, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think it's a very good effort. Like a dossier that we had produced last year regarding regarding whatever India has been doing from Afghan soil, all terror activities against Pakistan. That dossier again was a very good dossier and contained a lot of very authentic information. And similarly, this dossier also contains very comprehensive and authentic information. My take on this is that it's okay that we produce such dossiers and we try to put across the information to the rest of the world. But then people tend to forget because we don't pursue the matter in a very vigorous manner. My submission is that India created a disinfo network for spreading cooked up information, for spreading lies. Why can't we create a similar network to spread the truth to the rest of the world? Why can't we create such like things where we have the international think tanks linked up with us? We provide them the correct information, they write articles and they address the issue in international media, in various newspapers, and continuously. I think this process has to be followed in a big way, like an adventure, and should continue for a very long period. Because people, because of their own interest, vested interest with India, they tend to forget, or they really like to forget, so that they don't have to pursue this thing. So we have to keep on hammering this thing into the international community's conscientious and mind, so that they at least start paying some attention. And then similarly in these countries, we have to mobilize the public opinion to bring pressure onto their own cause. Because human rights issue is something where people are very sensitive, at least in the Western world. People are quite sensitive about the human rights issue. And if we address this issue and take up with the public also, and we try to mobilize the public opinion within these countries, again, it will accrue some kind of good result. So I think, unfortunately, the international community, there is hypocrisy. They have their own interests. But I think there is no limit for the hard work that we can put in. We have to look at our own input and work that we can do. And if we feel that we have not been able to achieve the desired results with whatever we have been doing, I think there's a need to put in more. There is a need to address the issue in a broader way, perhaps to take it up with the various cross sections of the international society. So that, and similarly, I think there are legal issues like the violation of the United Nations resolutions. I think this should also be examined, that the law has been violated, where they are changing the demographic structure of the valley. I think that we must consider taking it up with the International Court of Justice.
All right. Now, General Saab, one very important factor, and that is, obviously you did talk about the legal issues, you mentioned about the content of the dossier, you also mentioned about the consistency and hard work that would be needed in the future. I'll just give you a few examples, sir. We're talking about media. Forget about the press media of India, forget about the disinformation. Even the media, that is the state media, I'll name, whether it's Republic TV or TV9 or Times Now or Times India, and so many more channels. I mean, they are totally there to spread disinformation and malign Pakistan. I mean, they have nothing else to talk about except for Pakistan and the Afghanistan issue, and trying to, in fact, show the entire world as if Pakistan is the real culprit in that overall scenario. General Saab, if we have to have a proper counter narrative, then we need to have a proper setup also in the form of NGOs that are working in Kashmir and reporting about it, television channels totally dedicated to tell the world about the Kashmir cause, or a certain time that should be allocated on all the national televisions. And another important factor, General Saab, that is about the overall understanding of the Indians. They are a part of BICA, they are a part of Quad, they have a lot of influence on the Western world. And General Saab, you also know, and I know, that narratives are always created in the Western world and then they are spread. Whether you talk about the weapons of mass destruction kind of a narrative, or you talk about the war on terror kind of a narrative, we all know what eventually happened and what was the reason for that. But General Saab, a proper forceful application should be there. You know, all the political parties should be on board. Don't you think we need to do something of that level to counter it?
See, if we talk about some kind of political unity within the country, at least on some of our national issues, which are very vital for our country, from foreign policy point of view or for our own economy-related issues, I think the government has to take a lead. In my opinion, the government must develop a sort of working relationship with all the political parties to address the national issues. There are issues which, if we take the Kashmir issue or the economy issue, these are not going to be tackled within 1 year, 2 years, or maybe you require 2, 3 tenures of various governments. So there has to be some kind of continuity, and if we have taken some decisions unanimously, taking all the parties into account, then you will find that continuity in the policy, and there will be harmony in addressing the whole issue from our own state of Pakistan. So I think the government must consider this thing, and at least on these issues, which are of our national relevance, government must have unanimity along with the other political parties that should be created. Unanimity has to be created with the efforts that the government has to put in. So government should take lead. But you are absolutely right. This is very, very important when you have your own differences within the country and you start pulling legs here and there and putting banners, then your narrative is not accepted. I have seen that the Indians, they have been ridiculing some of our narratives because our own people have been saying something controversial about that. Similarly, I think in addition to the political parties, regular briefings of media should also be carried out, and there has to be a line with the media should not cross, where the national approach is to be addressed, where you have to take up our foreign policy issues where a consensus has been reached by all the political parties. That should be then promoted by the media instead of letting it down. So I personally have a feeling that we really have not created that kind of atmosphere within our country where we can put up a very strong, united front against the narratives coming from the other side.
All right, Jan Saab, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comments, Jan Saab. Now coming to you, sir, I think very clearly mentioned by Jan Saab and also earlier Dr. Saib also, which you liked on it, comprehensive long-term strategy has to be in place. But sir, I'll just come up with one example, and I'm really hurt because whatever we saw when Sayyid Ali Gilani Saab passed away, and the way his body was snatched away, at that time when, you know, everybody is so broken because you have lost somebody in your family, and we all know what happened later. Now, sir, this is not just one case. It's a very regular feature out there. A lot of people do not even know where their loved ones are buried, unfortunately. Let's throw light on that example, sir, and then talk about the Western double standards. You know, that is something so unfortunate that we need to address that part also. Doctor?
Tomorrow an article was published in New York Times, and the author clearly mentioned that the stony silence maintained by India, that they are now snatching not only the rights who are currently living in Indian occupied Kashmir, but also who are no more. It is a sad saga represented by New York Times. Number one. Number two, you need have a proper homework to carry forward in complex geopolitical system. Now, what is the way forward? It is a welcome step by state, because state is a sole actor in international arena, and we welcome it as in Kashmiri. And number two, now what should be the way forward to carry this narrative forward? They have laid a case, a good case on the state level. It shall had been done
much earlier.
And we have to carry forward this narrative at various platforms, particularly on the media. And you know that I regularly hammer that we must investment on the media, because media is the frontline soldier. It makes and breaks
Totally
the
agree,
narrative.
Dr. Saab.
And what is the work of we academicians and researchers? We provide you a data, we provide you a material which is having the proper reference.
Correct.
Which cannot be denied by any international body.
True.
Because when we write a paper or a book, we mention in the bottom either it is a APA style or Chicago style. We mention where from this data we got. And that is the credibility of that
The
paper,
reference, basically.
or the work which has been done. And number two, they have to carry it forward in 23 HR body, and they have to lobby there. And again, I am repeating the same, you have to work on small nations also. And again, I am repeating that when Gambia put the issue of the Rohingya, and it was heard by international community. It means that small nations who are representative of UNGA, they have equal weightage when you do not have the say, when there is some sort of geopolitics and some sort of interdependence and economic interests. So you have to develop an alternative mechanism, number one. Number two, you should book these cases in International Criminal Court. And then again in the coming month, the session of FATF is also coming, and you have to give the hype of these cases, which are the prima facie proof against India crime against the humanity. And now you have two live examples recently, when Sahrai Saab was killed during the custody, and there was no any medical report how he died, and then his body was buried, body was handed over to his family, and it was buried in the night time. Number one. Number two, we recently the National Assembly.
The body was
had
in such a bad
Yeah,
state.
yeah. It was not in good state. So there was no any medical report how he died, when he was
No cause
having
mentioned,
no
nothing.
problem. Yeah, nothing at all. And number two,
Extrajudicial killing,
and
this is what it is,
the,
yes.
Same is the under custody killing of Saeed Ali Gilani, because he was caged for more than decade. He was not allowed to come away from his home. So he was feeling the suffocation, the top and tall leader of our resistance movement. And these are big two cases which we can play. And number third, then systematically, HR followed by FATF, followed by International Criminal Court, followed by UNGA. The session is coming. But again, I am telling the same. You need a proper homework. 23 members of UN, UN Human Rights Commission, we must have met one by one. I am very glad that when Imran Khan said that I am an ambassador of the Kashmir. But I will request, because we are acting, the degree of pain have surpassed the maximum capacity we Kashmiris have. But I'm very thankful that you are providing some time, a space, and we are trying to represent our pain, because the degree of pain is very high. But again, that I have to give the hope to my nation. When state takes the responsibility, the Foreign Office of the Pakistan have pushed the case in international mechanism, because this is the proper route, because state is a unit of analysis in international relations.
Correct.
We are not. Now, what is our role? So we have to differentiate what is the role of academia. Madam is sitting here having a remarkable contribution in the academia, and what is my role as a researcher. We have to make the cases and develop the cases, give the references, put the proper proof on every page, and we have the ICC, the local this organization, have carried to 1,700 case studies of these cases. And again, Angana Chatterjee, I met her in the New York, and she was the first scholar of Indian scholar from North India who unveiled the this mosques, these buried mosques, which have been the people who have been buried, and then she built a case upon that. So we have lot of evidences of the various cases, the human rights crime carried by them. Now, what is the missing? We have to focus upon that, because we have to wove the support.
So it needs
to
a very
carry it.
consistent and
multidimensional,
absolutely.
Yeah,
there you go.
elaborative.
Exactly. Because
Now
I think
again, you have moved from submissive diplomacy to some active diplomacy. So proactive diplomacy.
you need to be aggressive also, because that's
have to
how.
aggressive, because you have such solid evidences to carry forward.
You,
these
you,
cases.
you in fact raised a very important point, and you were talking about the UNGA session.
Yeah.
That is going to be
Coming,
held.
yeah, 15, it is starting from 15,
that's
and 25 is having the speech of
Our
Narendra Modi.
And our Prime Minister
And
will
our
be
Prime
around
Minister is
anyway.
not going, it is probably Foreign Minister
Foreign
will
Minister that
represent
is
the
going to.
UNGA, yeah.
But I think the way the Prime Minister Imran Khan has in fact raised the issue of Kashmir or Islamophobia. I remember there were 4 major areas. One was climate change also. But ma'am, that was really because that was a 52-minute long speech, if you remember. Yeah. And that was really recommended, and everybody talked about it, that at length, the way he talked about the Kashmir issue, for that matter, human rights issue. I mean, that is one way forward. And then a lot of dossiers even were presented then to the US President. It was Mr. Trump then, to the UNGA Secretary General, and so many important, in fact, individuals there as well. Ma'am, nothing has happened. I'm not sure whether they've even opened those dossiers because of the Indian diplomatic pressure. Whether we like it, whether we admit it or not, the pressure does exist, is there. I'll just give you one example. I was going through a lot of documents last night. And ma'am, there was this a very interesting case study regarding various issues going on within India. And honestly speaking, every person whosoever, I'm not exactly sure the percentage, but was Madam somebody from India who was the head of, and I'm talking about universities like Harvard, like Princeton, like Stanford, I mean all over, John Hopkins, and these were the people who were controlling the mindset of the future American generations. Now that is something which really worries me.
Thank you for speaking about it, because it is worrying us for so many years. And but you know, we are lagging behind in not, I would not use the term controlling, but even influencing the narrative. Even sharing our side of the story, we are lagging behind. I would like to add, Dr. Waleed's statement reminds me the what Boutros Ghali said, that CNN is the 16th member of Security Council. So this is the influence of media, and this public opinion hijacks or determines the movements and policy options of the members of UN Security Council. So we cannot ignore the importance of media, but at the same time, the strategy should be multi-layered. We need to reach out to the policy circles and to media as well, because they both are interlinked and they both influence each other. No one is, so it is very important to work on it. And as you said, that why international community, and that is why yesterday in the press conference it has been highlighted that international communities, I would say hypocrisy, international communities denial of a reality and of pain of children of lesser God. That is what Arundhati Roy told about.
Exactly, and what is the purpose of having those organizations if you're not doing anything?
Yes, I think if those organizations are actually independent, and as Noam Chomsky wrote in his book, The Manufacturing Consent, that they are not working to serve only the interests of elites, then those international organizations should step forward and take initiatives to investigate all those crimes highlighted in Pakistan in this dossier by the Pakistani team, scholars, academicians, practitioners. I am sure that would be a collaborated effort. So otherwise, if international community would remain silent about it, if they show that they are not concerned about it, then sorry, we need to recalculate the rules of game. Then this is not the required theater in which we would like to play.
Now, what other choice do we have?
That I cannot articulate right now, but there would be.
Okay, the other choice I would. Okay, let me give you my 2 cents on this.
Okay,
Ma'am, organizations like SCO.
Yes.
Like, you know, they have, I mean, that is very influential. You've got 4 nuclear powers in there, and obviously you have powers which are much bigger than India.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about SARC has been hijacked by the Indians. No trade, nothing. Just because they are always after Pakistan for some reason.
Yeah.
You talk about the role of OIC, ma'am, as far as a statement is concerned, yes, but again, I mean, you talk about Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, I mean, they have offered the highest civil awards to
Dr.
Narendra Modi.
Pointed out the small countries. Whenever I visit abroad, especially when I visited USA last time, every African I met, he was sympathetic about the Kashmir cause. Why? Because they themselves face that colonization and oppression and atrocities. So
they could relate to it, no?
Yeah,
Faisal.
they could relate to it. Yeah. So they were, because I was there on talks on Kashmir and on these issues. So so
you had a chance to share a lot, yeah?
And then in my audience, there were African students at different universities. They were also concerned about the way India is dealing with Kashmir and Kashmiri people. They don't know the reasons of the movement, anything, but they know that this human rights violation, the pain of suffering from violence, they know the pain. So why we, as an independent sovereign nation, we should not ignore any country which can be a potential vote for Kashmir. So this is really...
Sir, 4.2 million domiciles so far.
Ma'am,
this is so unfortunate.
Total change has taken place.
Can you believe There are, as per international law, there are rights of indigenous people.
Yeah.
No colonial occupant, no foreign power can compromise, can steal those rights of indigenous people. And you're talking about it in 47, the indigenous people were forced by those radical ideologies and Jammu genocide and Kashmir genocide to be displaced within their own land.
Correct.
And they were like thrown out of their land. Even their right is not being acknowledged even after 74 years. And the same successful strategy India is again repeating in Indian occupied Kashmir.
So
This
far it's working well
demographic
for them,
changes,
but I
displacement, like we all are examples of those families who were forced out of their land. And no one in international community is ready to listen to our pain.
there are multiple factors for that, and we'll talk about that also. Sir, you wanted to add something?
Faisal, there are two approaches, empirical approaches. One we call the bottom-up approach, and one is the bottom-down.
Correct.
When you are talking the bottom-down approach, that is the state approach, the state structured approach. When you are talking about the bottom-up approach, for example, if you are talking the relationship between state to state, definitely no relation is without the interests between state. Either it is between USA and India and even Pakistan and China and Pakistan and USA. It is a bottom-down approach. Now they have taken the state structure, that is a bottom-down. But sometimes you have to work from bottom-up approaches. Then what you do the multilateral paradigms you calculate it. For example, if a European is annoyed with a small thing that is with any animal and he is weeping, and why not with the Kashmiri child who has been bruised and his entire body has cuts and his blood is oozing?
Dead body of
Why
Oh,
we
I
fail?
was exactly thinking the same.
Yeah, why we
case.
fail it? Number one. Number two, you have to woo the support of policy groups. For example, Madam is also having interaction. I have interaction with various policy groups who are working for the. Definitely, you might face the two type of the people. One will be the pro human rights, and another will be, but that will be the small. Number two. Number three, as you talked.
Sir, majority
universities.
talks about the
Yeah,
rights. 99.9% people, I mean.
Universities. University is the circle which is having directly link with the policy makers. So how much work we have done? Sir, it is not that anybody is giving the statement and the subject has been done when there is the power dynamics. Until and unless there you do not know how to change the system, as ma'am told that we have to think the how theatre can be changed, and we have changed, alhamdulillah. For example, when you are allied with the powerful, and today I will forward you a statement of Foreign Office of the China. They have openly spoken what has been happening in the France, what has been happening in the Libya, what has been happening in the Iraq, and these must be booked as a war crime. Now they are speaking. They are against in the proactive diplomacy now. The China is not the mom. Now they are speaking about the world affairs. So you have two things. When the quantity is one side from Indian side, then what should be your policy? You will develop the quality. Number one. Number two, if you feel sometimes you do not have enough allies, then you ally with the powerful. This is a bottom down approach. We have alternatives, and always there is
But
alternative.
the current
Faisal, it is
engagement
not-
of the Indians with the Americans,
Faisal, it
that
is
is
not
very, very
first
influential.
time.
It's a
It
strategic
is-
engagement.
And you have seen in our regional dynamics, power is not entire thing. It is the sentiment. It is the sentiment of those Kashmiri people whose kids, skins, small child and whose mother has been killed. And there is a degree of hatred which works, at which you cannot quell by force. And same happened in our neighbor. More the power you use, more the collateral damage there is, and more the hatred against India is.
Sir,
It
the
always
taking
goes-
over of
Now, what
Afghanistan
is-
by the Taliban
Now-
has also given some sort of a moral strength to the Kashmir
no,
cause.
No, I will tell
the
you. Now,
indigenous people?
what is happening in the Kashmir? I will not talk about the Taliban subject. What is happening in the Kashmir presently? That is what I can do as a Kashmiri. I can only do one work, that is I can make sentiment alive. It is what Saeed Ali Gilani did, and our leadership who are still engaged, they kept that sentiment alive. Now what is the difference? You are talking about the neighbors, the time, we can't say the time. But until and unless our resolve, our determination, our devotion,
Dr.
our
Waleed,
conviction
there
is live.
No, conviction
they
is great.
They
Sir,
cannot
if they
defeat us.
end up changing the demographics,
Yeah.
and let's suppose there is an Indian-style plebiscite is held, or some sort of a referendum or whatever, an interesting part is, sir, at the end of the day, what if they keep on changing the demographic? 42 lakh domiciles. You know how much it means, sir?
No, I know,
That is
I
a
have-
huge number. And what if another, let's say 20, 30, 40% more
See,
in the
mass
next year?
killing.
And
You should-
ma'am,
those domiciles, those mass killings, use of chemical weapons, war crimes.
This is what is happening.
Brutality and violence, everything is leading towards to affect the demography of Kashmir. This is what it did.
Yeah,
like,
ma'am,
since
you must,
centuries.
Faisal must design a program. I am working on the demography, the statistics.
We'll
provided
definitely
by
do
the
that,
Indian.
sir. This
Number one.
platform is
Number two,
always
now-
there for you,
Now,
for
what
this
is
cause.
my
Only
alternative?
law is
you
not
have
like
to, you
couple
have
of
to,
things
sir,
are involved.
you have to, sir, divide what is the role of the Kashmiri, the struggle who are struggling. What is the role of the state as a Pakistan? Pakistan take a bold initiative to put forward the case in international community, and what is the role of media and other policies.
Absolutely, sir.
So we must having some comprehensive, as I told again, multi-directional, multilateral and multi-dimensional
Spot on. Dr. Waleed.
towards one gravity.
Sir, there has to be a consistent
Towards-
effort
yes.
at all the forums, at all
Consistency
the
and regular efforts.
Definitely. And ma'am, in the future,
Consistent, regular and sustained.
we'll do that. Because I was just told that we are running out of time. But ma'am, since you're also in this profession of teaching and all, madam, we would love to have these ideas. I mean, that's what brainstorming is all about. And it is about a very genuine cause. Not because Pakistan is linked in one way or the other. It's about the human rights.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's about the families,
It is
about the future of
plight
those children.
oppressed
Yeah.
people.
There you go. And I think we should definitely work on it, and there should be a very consistent approach.
Exactly.
That has to be there. We need to engage a lot of Kashmiri students,
Yeah.
Kashmiri people, individuals. We need to share their stories, the miseries they go through. I think that is
Audibility to Kashmiri voices.
absolutely.
We need to
But
provide.
we do not believe in disinformation. We will only spread what the truth is.
Yeah, exactly.
Inshallah. But thank you so much, Dr. Waleed. Thank you so much, Dr. ASMA SHAKIR. And that's all we have for this up. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.